I watched my sister marry my ex-fiancé from the third row. Not the first row, where the mother of the bride should have seated me. Not the second, where extended family belonged. The third row wedged between distant cousins I hadn't seen since childhood, and a great aunt who kept asking if I was next. If only she knew. The irony burned hotter than the champagne I'd downed in the hotel room before forcing myself into this cream-colored dress that suddenly felt like a shroud. My hands trembled as I clutched the program, reading their names printed in elegant script. Celeste and Derek, a love story built on the ruins of mine. 6 months ago, Derek had been mine. 6 months ago, I'd been planning a wedding with autumn leaves and promises of forever. 6 months ago, I hadn't known that my baby sister, sweet, innocent Celeste, had been sleeping with my fiancé behind my back. The organ music swelled. Everyone rose. I remained frozen, watching Celeste glide down the aisle in my dress. Well, not literally my dress, but the design I'd chosen, the lace pattern I'd obsessed over, the train I'd dreamed about. She'd stolen everything, including the man waiting at the altar with tears in his eyes, tears he'd never shed for me. Beautiful, isn't she? My mother whispered, leaning across the aisle with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A warning lived in that smile. Behave, don't make a scene. This is your sister's day. My sister's day. Built on my heartbreak. I forced myself to smile back, to nod, to pretend my chest wasn't caving in with every step Celeste took toward my future. The future that had been ripped away 3 weeks before my own wedding, when I'd found them tangled in the sheets of his apartment. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows that should have been mine, and rings that looked suspiciously similar to the one Derek had proposed with. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and Derek kissed Celeste with a passion he'd always held back from me, something inside me shattered completely. I was the first to leave for the reception. The country club sparkled with fairy lights and white roses and other details stolen from my abandoned Pinterest boards. I made directly for the bar, my heels clicking against marble floors that cost more than most people's cars. Whiskey, I told the bartender. Double. Neat. He raised an eyebrow but poured without comment. I downed it in one burning swallow and was reaching for another when a voice stopped me cold. Drinking alone at weddings is either very brave or very desperate. The voice was dark, velvet, smooth, dangerous, and utterly magnetic. I turned slowly, already knowing I'd find someone who didn't belong in this world of country club propriety and old money pretense. He stood too close, tall enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Dark eyes that saw too much, framed by a face that could have been carved from marble-sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and a mouth that promised both pleasure and pain. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, and probably cost more than my car. Everything about him screamed power, from his commanding stance to the way other guests instinctively gave him space. "Who says I'm alone?" I managed, hating how breathless I sounded. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You are now." Before I could process that statement, he gestured to the bartender with 2 fingers. Another whiskey appeared in front of me. When I didn't immediately reach for it, he picked it up and pressed it into my hand, his fingers brushing mine with deliberate slowness. Heat raced up my arm. "I'm Matteo," he said, his accent placing him somewhere between New York and Italy. "And you're the woman everyone's whispering about." My stomach dropped. "I don't know what you—" "The ex-fiancé." His eyes held mine, unflinching. The one who was replaced by her own sister. The one who showed up anyway, wearing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes and a dress designed to prove she's moved on. He leaned closer, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker, more dangerous. "Except you haven't moved on at all." I should have been offended, should have thrown the whiskey in his perfect face and walked away. Instead, I drank it. "You don't know anything about me," I whispered. "I know you're sitting at table 12, the reject table, where they seat people they invited out of obligation." His hand moved to the small of my back, possessive and sure. "I know you've been watching the happy couple with murder in your eyes, and I know that in about 30 seconds they're going to announce the first dance, and you're going to break." "I'm fine," I lied. "No," he said softly, dangerously. "You're drowning, but I can throw you a lifeline." Before I could ask what he meant, feedback screeched through the speakers. The DJ's voice boomed across the reception hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, welcome for the first time, as husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Derek Hamilton." Applause erupted. The crowd parted. And there they were, Celeste radiant in white, Derek beaming with pride, sweeping onto the dance floor for their first dance. To our song, the room tilted. My hands went numb. Mateo's arm tightened around my waist, holding me upright. "Breathe," he commanded. "I can't. You can. And you will." His voice dropped lower, meant only for me. "Because you're going to walk out to that terrace with me right now. And you're going to let everyone here see that you've already moved on to something far more dangerous than Derek Hamilton ever was." I finally looked up at him, really looked. His eyes held dark promises and darker secrets. Everything about him screamed danger, from the predatory grace of his movements to the barely leashed violence I sensed beneath his civilized exterior. "Why?" I breathed. "Why would you help me?" Mateo's smile turned wolfish. "Because, Valentina." My blood froze. I hadn't told him my name. "You're exactly what I've been looking for." His hand closed around mine, and everything changed. Mateo led me through the crowded reception like he owned it, and judging by the way people parted for him without question, maybe he did. His hand remained firm at the small of my back, a brand of heat that seared through the thin fabric of my dress. I should have pulled away. Should have demanded answers about how he knew my name, why he'd singled me out, what game he was playing. Instead, I let him guide me onto the moonlit terrace, away from the music and laughter and my sister's perfect celebration. The October air bit at my bare shoulders, but I barely felt it. Mateo shrugged out of his suit jacket and draped it over me in one fluid motion, surrounding me with warmth and that intoxicating scent that was purely him. "How do you know my name?" I finally asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He leaned against the marble balustrade, studying me with those dark, knowing eyes. "I make it my business to know things. That's not an answer." "No," he agreed, a hint of amusement flickering across his face. "It's not." Behind us, applause erupted as the first dance ended. I flinched, and something shifted in Mateo's expression, something almost gentle. "You loved him," he said. Not a question. I thought I did. The admission tasted bitter. Now I'm not sure I even knew him. People rarely show us who they truly are. Mateo moved closer, and I found myself trapped between his body and the railing. They show us what they think we want to see, until they don't need us anymore. There was something raw in those words, some old wound I recognized because I carried similar scars. "Is that what you do?" I challenged, tilting my chin up. "Show people what they want to see?" His laugh was dark, humorless. "No, Bella. I show them exactly who I am. Most are too afraid to look." The terrace door opened, spilling music and voices into our sanctuary. I turned to see my mother scanning the crowd, her eyes landing on me with visible relief, followed immediately by disapproval when she noticed Mateo. "Valentina," she called, her voice tight. "We're doing photos. The family needs you." The family. As if I hadn't been excised from it the moment Celeste decided she wanted what was mine. "She's occupied," Mateo said, his tone brooking no argument. My mother's face paled. She opened her mouth, closed it, then retreated without another word. I stared at him. "How did you?" "Your mother knows who I am." His smile held no warmth. "Most people in this room do. They're just pretending they don't." Ice slid down my spine. "Who are you?" "Mateo Salvatore." He said it simply, as if the name should mean something. It didn't. I shook my head. His expression darkened with something I couldn't read, surprise perhaps, or calculation. "Your innocence is either genuine or brilliantly performed." "I'm not innocent," I shot back. "I'm just not part of whatever world you come from." "No," he murmured, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was intimate, possessive, and sent electricity racing across my skin. "You're not yet." "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "that I'm about to make you an offer. One that will change everything." My heart hammered against my ribs. "I don't even know you. You know enough." His thumb traced my jawline, and I hated how my body responded, leaning into his touch like a flower toward sunlight. "You know I'm dangerous. You know I don't belong at respectable weddings. You know that everyone in that room fears me." "Should I fear you?" "Probably." His eyes held mine, intense and unwavering. But you won't, because you're already drowning, Valentina, and I'm the only thing keeping you afloat. He wasn't wrong. The moment I'd walked into this reception, I'd been sinking, suffocating under the weight of betrayal, humiliation, and the unbearable lightness of being forgotten. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. Matteo's hand moved to cup my face, his thumb brushing my lower lip with agonizing slowness. "I want you to marry me." The world stopped. "What?" Marry me." He said it like he was ordering coffee, not proposing to a stranger. "Tonight. Right now. In front of everyone inside who thinks you're broken." My laugh came out strangled, hysterical. "You're insane." "Probably," he agreed, "but I'm also serious." I tried to step back, but he held me in place, not forcefully, but with an immovable presence that made escape impossible. "You don't even know me. This is a business arrangement." His voice turned cold, transactional. "I need a wife. You need revenge. We both get what we want." "Revenge?" The word tasted dangerous on my tongue. "Tell me you don't want to walk back into that reception on my arm. Tell me you don't want to see your sister's face when you announce that you're engaged to someone far more powerful than her mediocre husband. Tell me you don't want to watch your ex-fiancé realize exactly what he threw away." Every word hit like a precision strike, because he was right. God help me. He was right. "This is crazy," I breathed. "Yes." He leaned down until his lips nearly brushed my ear. "But you're going to say yes anyway. Why would you want this? Want me?" Something flickered in his eyes, something vulnerable, and quickly shuddered. "Because you're perfect for what I need. Beautiful enough to be believable. Unknown enough to be moldable. Desperate enough to agree." The words should have offended me. Instead, they felt like truth, harsh, unvarnished, and somehow refreshing after months of pretty lies. "And what do I get?" I asked. "Everything." His smile turned predatory. "Money, protection, power. And the look on your sister's face when she realizes she married the wrong man." Behind us, the terrace door opened again. Derek's voice called out, "Val, you out here?" Matteo's eyes never left mine. "Choose," he commanded softly. "Right now, go back to being their pity case, or take my hand and become something they'll never forget." Derek's footsteps approached. I looked at Matteo, this dangerous stranger, with dark eyes and darker promises, and I made the worst decision of my life. "Yes." Matteo's hand closed around mine the instant the word left my lips, sealing a bargain I didn't fully understand. Derek rounded the corner of the terrace, his bow tie loosened and champagne flush coloring his cheeks. He stopped short when he saw us, his eyes narrowing on our joined hands. "Val," he said, and I hated the familiarity in his voice, the presumption that he still had any right to use my nickname. "Your mom's looking for you. Family photos." "I'm not family anymore," I heard myself say. "Remember? You made sure of that." He flinched, had the audacity to look wounded. "Don't be like that. Celeste wanted you here. We both did. How generous." The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. Derek's attention shifted to Matteo, and something changed in his expression, wariness replacing irritation. "I don't believe we've met." "No," Matteo said, his voice carrying an edge that made Derek take an involuntary step back. "You wouldn't have." The silence stretched, taut as a wire. Derek looked between us, confusion giving way to something darker. "Val, who is this?" "This," Matteo said before I could answer, pulling me flush against his side, "is your ex-fiancé's future husband." The words detonated like a bomb. Derek's face went white, then red. "What?" "You heard me." Matteo's smile was all teeth, predatory and cold. "Valentina has agreed to become my wife. We'll be married within the month." "That's Derek," sputtered, his eyes finding mine, searching for the joke, the lie, something that made sense. "Val, what is he talking about? You just met him." "So," the word came out sharper than I intended. "You married my sister 3 months after breaking off our engagement. At least I'm waiting a few weeks." "This is insane." Derek moved forward, reaching for my arm. "You're not thinking clearly. You've been drinking, and whoever this guy is." Matteo intercepted Derek's hand with brutal efficiency, his grip turning Derek's reaching gesture into a wrist lock that made my ex gasp in pain. "Touch her again," Matteo said softly, dangerously, and you'll lose the hand. Let him go, I whispered, even as something dark and satisfied coiled in my chest at seeing Derek helpless. Mateo released him immediately, but the message had been delivered. Derek cradled his wrist, backing away with wide eyes. You have no idea what you're getting into, Derek said to me, his voice shaking. This man is mine. I cut him off, surprised by my own conviction. He's mine, the way you were supposed to be, the way you never actually were. Derek's expression crumbled. For just a moment, I saw something that might have been regret flicker across his face. Then it hardened into anger. Fine. He straightened his jacket with his good hand. Make a fool of yourself. But don't come crying to me when this blows up in your face. He stormed back inside, leaving us alone in the moonlight. My knees went weak. Mateo caught me effortlessly, guiding me to a stone bench hidden among the terrace gardens. I sank onto it, my hands trembling. What did I just do? I breathed. You took control. Mateo crouched before me, his hands covering mine, steadying their shaking. You stopped being their victim. I agreed to marry a stranger. Yes. A stranger who just threatened my ex-fiancé. He tried to touch what's mine. The possessiveness in those words should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat flooding through my veins. I'm not yours, I protested weakly. His thumb traced circles on my palm, the touch both soothing and incendiary. You said, yes, Bella, that makes you mine, at least for the next month. Just a month? Something flickered in his expression too quick to read. That's what you agreed to, isn't it? A business arrangement. We marry, you get your revenge, and then... He trailed off. And then what? I asked, suddenly needing to know the ending to this insane story I'd just written myself into. That depends on you. He stood, pulling me up with him. But first, we have an announcement to make. Panic seized my chest. Now? We're going back in there now? Strike while the iron is hot. His smile turned wicked. Or in this case, while your ex-fiancé is still reeling and your sister hasn't had time to compose herself. Mateo, trust me. He cupped my face, and the gentleness of the gesture contrasted sharply with the steel in his voice. This is what you wanted. The moment you said yes, you chose war. There's no retreating now. He was right. The moment Derek walked back inside, the fuse had been lit. Either I followed through, or I'd look exactly like what everyone already thought I was: desperate, pathetic, making up stories to save face. What do I say? I asked. Nothing. He adjusted his jacket on my shoulders, the gesture intimate and possessive. I'll handle everything. You just hold my hand and look like you can't believe your luck. That won't be hard, I admitted. I genuinely can't believe any of this is happening. His laugh was low, genuine for the first time since we'd met. Good. Authenticity sells better than performance. He offered his arm. I took it, feeling the solid strength of him, the coiled power barely contained beneath expensive fabric and civilized manners. One question, I said as we approached the terrace door. Ask. Why me? Really? You could have any woman. Why choose someone broken? Mateo stopped, turning to face me fully. The moonlight carved his features into something almost brutal, beautiful in its hardness. Because broken things are the most dangerous, he said. They have nothing left to lose. And Bella? His fingers tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. I need someone dangerous. Before I could ask what he meant, he pushed open the door. Music and laughter spilled out, along with the cloying sweetness of wedding cake and champagne. Every head turned as we entered Matteo Salvatore and his mysterious companion, striding through the reception like we owned it. Maybe we did. Matteo made a gesture. The music cut off. In the sudden silence, Celeste's laugh died mid-note. Derek stood frozen near the bar, his face still pale. Forgive the interruption, Matteo announced, his voice carrying effortlessly across the stunned crowd. But I have an announcement that simply cannot wait. His arm tightened around my waist, and I realized there was no going back. The silence in the reception hall was absolute, suffocating. Every eye fixed on us, on Matteo's arm around my waist, on the way I fit against him like I belonged there. I want to thank the happy couple, Matteo said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as dangerous, for hosting such a memorable evening. Because it's here, in this room, that I met the woman who will become my wife. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Celeste's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering against the floor in an explosion of crystal and pale liquid. Valentina has agreed to marry me, Matteo continued, his fingers splaying possessively across my hip. And I wanted to share our joy with the people who matter most to her. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. These people didn't matter to me. They'd chosen sides the moment Celeste and Derek announced their relationship, and I hadn't been on the winning team. Until now. My mother looked like she might faint. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of purple, but it was Celeste's expression that made my breath catch naked shock melting into something ugly and raw. Jealousy. My baby sister who'd stolen my fiancé was jealous of me. That's impossible. Celeste's voice cut through the murmurs, shrill and desperate. Val, you just met him. This is obviously some kind of what? Matteo's voice dropped to a lethal softness that made several guests step back. Choose your next words carefully, Mrs. Hamilton. The emphasis on her new name, the dismissal in his tone, it made Celeste flinch like she'd been slapped. Derek moved to his bride's side, his arm protective around her shoulders. This is our wedding, he said, trying for authoritative and landing somewhere near petulant. Whatever stunt you're pulling. No stunt. I found my voice, surprised by its steadiness. I'm engaged. To Matteo. And unlike some people, I won't be marrying my sister's ex-fiancé. The crowd erupted. Whispers became exclamations. Shocked gasps turned to barely concealed laughter. I'd said the quiet part loud, named the elephant that had been suffocating this reception since the first toast. Valentina! My mother pushed through the crowd, her face a mask of horror. Apologize. Right now. For what? I asked. Telling the truth? Or for finding someone who actually wants me instead of settling for my seconds? You're making a scene, she hissed. No, Matteo interjected, his voice cutting like a blade. You made a scene when you forced your daughter to attend her sister's wedding to her ex-fiancé. Valentina is simply responding to it. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She had no response because he was right. And everyone knew it. We're leaving, Matteo announced, already guiding me toward the exit. Thank you again for the introduction. The wedding gift will arrive tomorrow. He swept me out before anyone could respond, his hand never leaving the small of my back. Behind us, the reception erupted into chaos-raised voices, my sisters crying, the string quartet starting up again in a desperate attempt to restore normalcy. The valet brought around a car that made my eyes widen, a black Maserati that cost more than my yearly salary. Matteo opened the passenger door, and I slid in, surrounded by leather and luxury and the lingering scent of him. He drove in silence, the city lights blurring past the windows. I watched his profile, the sharp cut of his jaw, the way his hands gripped the steering wheel with controlled precision, the slight tension in his shoulders that suggested he wasn't as calm as he appeared. Where are we going? I finally asked. My place. We need to talk. We could have talked at the reception. His laugh was dark. No, Bella. That was a performance. Now comes the reality. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. What reality? The one where you learn exactly what you agreed to. He pulled into an underground garage beneath a building that screamed money and power. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent, tension coiling between us like a living thing. When the doors opened, directly into his apartment, I stepped into a space that was all clean lines, dark woods, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was beautiful, cold, expensive, exactly like him. Matteo shrugged out of his jacket, the one I was still wearing, and poured 2 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter. He handed me one, and I took it automatically. Sit, he commanded. I remained standing. I'm not your dog. His smile was approving. No, you're not. Sit anyway. Please. The please made me sink onto the leather sofa. He settled across from me, close enough that our knees almost touched, far enough that I didn't feel trapped. You need to understand what you've gotten yourself into, he said. A fake engagement? A real engagement. His eyes held mine, with a very real wedding at the end. The marriage contract will be binding, legal, and very much official. My hand tightened on the glass. For how long? 1 year. You said a month. I said we'd marry, within the month. He took a slow sip of his drink. The marriage itself lasts a year. After that, you're free to walk away with a very generous settlement. Enough to start over anywhere you want, be anyone you want. And what do you get? A wife. He said it simply. One who understands this is a business arrangement. One who won't fall in love and complicate things. One who's already broken enough that I can't break her further. The words should have hurt. Instead, they felt like relief, a clear-eyed assessment with no romance to muddy the waters. What do you need a wife for? I asked. That's not your concern. It is if I'm going to be her. Something shifted in his expression calculation, giving way to something almost like respect. Fair enough. I need legitimacy, respectability. A wife provides both. Legitimacy for what? My business. Which is? His smile turned dangerous. Also not your concern. Not yet. When will it be? After the wedding. He leaned forward, and suddenly the space between us felt charged, electric. Once you're my wife, you'll know everything. But until then, all you need to understand is this. I will protect you. I will provide for you. And I will make sure everyone who ever hurt you regrets it. Why? The question burst out. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because, he said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture now familiar. You're not a stranger anymore. You're mine. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed everything, soft vanishing, replaced by cold fury. What? I asked. He showed me the screen. It was a photo of us on the terrace, his hand on my face, our bodies close, the intimacy unmistakable. The caption read, Matteo Salvatore's mystery fiancé. But who is she really? It's already started, he said quietly. What has? His eyes met mine, dark and deadly serious. The war. War? I repeated, staring at the photo that had already garnered thousands of comments. With who? Matteo's jaw tightened as he scrolled through his phone, his expression growing darker with each swipe. Everyone who's been waiting for me to make a mistake. He stood abruptly, pacing to the windows overlooking the glittering city. In the reflection, I could see the tension coiling through his shoulders, the way his free hand clenched and released at his side. I need you to understand something, he said without turning. The moment you said yes to me, you became a target. My enemies will use you to get to me. Your family will try to leverage our relationship for their own gain. The media will dig into every moment of your past, looking for ammunition. My throat went dry. What kind of enemies? The kind that don't play by civilized rules. He turned then, and the look on his face made my breath catch. This wasn't the controlled, dangerous man from the reception, or the calculating businessman who'd offered me a deal. This was something raw, more honest, more terrifying. I should have told you before, he continued, but I needed you to say yes first. Needed you committed before you knew the full cost. Told me what? My voice came out barely above a whisper. That Matteo Salvatore isn't just a name, it's a legacy. My family has controlled this city's underground for 3 generations. Gambling, protection, import-export operations that aren't always legal. He watched my face, gauging my reaction. I'm what people call a crime boss, Valentina. A mobster. A criminal. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I was only beginning to understand. I should have been shocked, horrified, should have grabbed my purse and run for the elevator. Instead, pieces clicked into place: my mother's pale face when she saw him, the way the crowd had parted, Derek's fear when Matteo had grabbed his wrist. Everyone had known except me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Would you have said yes if I had? I considered it. Probably not. The old Valentina, the one who'd planned a respectable wedding and a quiet life, would have fled in terror. But the old Valentina had died the moment she found her fiancé in bed with her sister. I don't know, I admitted. Honest. He moved closer, and I could smell his cologne mixed with something darker: whiskey and danger, and promises that shouldn't feel as intoxicating as they did. I appreciate that. What happens now? I asked. Do I go into hiding? Get a security detail? You get both. He pulled out his phone again, typing rapidly. Starting tomorrow, you'll have a bodyguard. Marco, he's been with my family for years. Trustworthy, discreet, and very good at his job. I don't need a babysitter. You need someone who can kill anyone who tries to hurt you. His eyes met mine. Dead serious. And make no mistake, Bella. People will try. A chill ran down my spine. This is insane. I agreed to a fake engagement. There's nothing fake about this. He caught my chin, forcing me to look at him. The ring on your finger will be real. The wedding will be real. The danger will be very, very real. But so will my protection. No one touches what's mine. Ever. That possessiveness again, wrapping around me like chains made of silk. I could still walk away, I said, testing. You could. His thumb traced my lower lip, and heat pooled low in my belly. But you won't. How do you know? Because you're like me. His voice dropped to something almost tender. Broken, angry, looking for a way to burn down the world that hurt you. And I'm offering you a match. He was right, and I hated him for seeing it so clearly. My family will disown me, I said, when they find out what you are. They already disowned you when they chose your sister over you. Brutal honesty, delivered without cruelty. At least now you'll have power to go with your exile. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Then again, and again. I pulled it out, to find a flood of messages from my mother, my father, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, even old friends from college. What are you thinking? This is insane, Val. Call me immediately. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. And from Celeste, 5 words that made my blood boil. You're ruining my wedding day. I laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. She thinks I'm ruining her day. Mateo took the phone from my numb fingers, glanced at the messages, and tossed it onto the couch. Forget them. They don't matter anymore. They're my family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't humiliate each other. He cupped my face with both hands, and I found myself leaning into the warmth despite everything. But I will give you one chance, Valentina. One opportunity to walk out that door and go back to your old life. I won't stop you. Won't pursue you. You'll be free. My heart hammered. And if I stay? Then you're mine, completely. For the next year, you play the role of Matteo Salvatore's wife. You attend events. You smile for cameras. You make my enemies believe you're my greatest weakness. His voice turned rough. And in return, I give you everything. Safety, luxury, revenge against everyone who ever made you feel small. What if I want more than that? The words escaped before I could stop them. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe even hope. More? What if I want to matter? Really matter. Not just as your wife or your weakness, but as... I trailed off, not even sure what I was asking for. As my partner? He finished softly. Yes. Then you stay. His forehead touched mine, and the intimacy of it stole my breath. You stay, and you learn everything. The business, the family, the rules of this world. You stop being a pawn and become a queen. Queens have power, I whispered. Yes. His lips were so close to mine I could feel his breath. They do. Kiss me, I said suddenly. He froze. What? You heard me. If I'm going to be your wife, your real wife for a year, I need to know what I'm agreeing to. All of it. Valentina, kiss me, Matteo, or I walk out that door right now. For a long moment, he just stared at me, something unreadable churning in those dark eyes. Then his hand slid into my hair, angling my head back. You'll regret this, he warned. Probably. His mouth crashed onto mine. The kiss was nothing like Derek's careful pecks or tentative explorations. This was possession. Pure and simple Matteo claiming me with teeth and tongue and raw hunger that set my entire body on fire. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, could only feel. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Still want to leave? He asked roughly. No, I admitted. God help me, no. His smile was pure sin. Then welcome to the family, Bella. Before I could respond, the elevator dinged. We both turned as the doors opened to reveal a man I didn't recognize, tall, muscular, with a scar running down his left cheek and a gun visible in his shoulder holster. Boss, he said urgently. We have a problem. Someone just put a hit out on your new fiancé. Matteo's arm went around me, protective and possessive. How much? He asked coldly. $500,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. Matteo's grip tightened. Then I guess, he said softly, dangerously. We'd better make sure they fail. $500,000. For my life. The number echoed in my head as Matteo guided me away from the windows, his body a shield between me and the city that had suddenly become a hunting ground. Who? Matteo's voice was ice. Who put it out? The scarred man Marco, I assumed, pulled out a tablet, his expression grim. Anonymous posting on the dark web. But the timing, the amount, the specific mention of your engagement announcement. He paused. It's someone who was at that wedding. My stomach dropped. My family? Or your ex-fiancé, Marco said. Or any number of people who see your marriage to the boss as a threat. Matteo's jaw worked. Double the security detail. I want eyes on every entrance to this building, every camera feed monitored, and get me a list of everyone who attended that reception. Already done. Marco handed him the tablet. I flagged the most likely candidates based on motive and means. I moved to look over Matteo's shoulder, and my breath caught. There, highlighted in red, were 3 names I recognized. Derek Hamilton, Jonathan Chen, Derek's business partner, and my own father. No, I whispered. My father wouldn't. Your father just watched you humiliate his golden daughter in front of 200 guests, Matteo said, not unkindly. Men have killed for less. But I'm his daughter too. Are you? He turned to face me, and the sympathy in his eyes was almost harder to bear than the truth. When did he last choose you over Celeste? I couldn't answer, because the truth was never. Not when Celeste wanted my room because it had better light. Not when she borrowed my car and totaled it. Not when she stole my fiancé and my parents paid for a wedding that should have been mine. I'll handle this, Matteo said, turning back to Marco. Quietly. I want to know who paid for the hit before they know we're looking. Marco nodded and headed for the elevator. The doors closed, leaving us alone in the suddenly suffocating penthouse. I walked to the bar, poured myself a straight vodka, and downed it. The burn felt like clarity. I need to learn how to shoot, I said. Matteo's eyebrows rose. What? A gun. If people are going to try to kill me, I should know how to defend myself. I poured another drink, my hands surprisingly steady. Unless you expect me to hide behind bodyguards for the next year. Something shifted in his expression, approval mixed with something darker. You're full of surprises, Bella. I'm full of rage, I corrected. There's a difference. He moved toward me, and I didn't retreat. Couldn't. There was something magnetic about him in this moment, dangerous and deadly, yes, but also achingly real in a way Derek had never been. Rage is good, he said softly. Rage keeps you sharp. But you need to learn to control it, channel it, use it as a weapon instead of letting it use you. Is that what you do? Every day. His hand came up to cup my cheek, the gesture now familiar, grounding. The moment I let emotion rule me, I'm dead. In my world, hesitation kills. Teach me, I said. Not just how to shoot, everything. How to survive in your world. How to be the kind of wife you need. How to be ruthless. His thumb traced my lower lip, and heat sparked despite the circumstances. That, you already know. You just haven't admitted it yet. Before I could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and swore in Italian something harsh and guttural that made the hair on my neck stand. Up. What? I asked. Your sister just posted on social media. He turned the screen toward me. It was a photo of Celeste and Derek cutting their wedding cake, both beaming at the camera. The caption read, "Some people try to steal the spotlight, but true love always shines through. Number blessed not bitter, number real love wins." The comments were already flooding in hundreds of people I'd gone to school with, worked with, thought were friends, and they were all taking her side. So classy of Celeste to rise above the drama. Imagine showing up to your ex's wedding with a random guy and calling it love. Valentina always was jealous of her sister. My hands shook. She's making me the villain. Of course she is. Matteo took the phone from my trembling fingers. She needs everyone to believe she's the victim. That you're the unstable ex who can't move on. But that's not... The truth doesn't matter, Bella. Only the story people believe. He pulled me close, and I let him, needing the solid warmth of his body to anchor me. But we'll tell a better story. One that makes her look small and desperate and exactly what she is, a thief who stole scraps while you claimed a kingdom. How? How? My voice broke on the word. We get married. This week. I pulled back. That's insane. We can't plan a wedding in... We don't need to plan anything. I have people who handle that. His eyes held mine, intense and unwavering. What I need is for you to trust me. Can you do that? Could I? Trust a man I'd met hours ago. A criminal who'd just told me there was a contract on my life. Someone who saw me as a business transaction. But then, what choice did I have? Go back to my apartment, my job, my life, and wait for an assassin to find me? Crawl back to my family and beg forgiveness for the crime of not quietly accepting betrayal? What kind of wedding? I asked instead of answering. A slow smile spread across his face. The kind that makes headlines. The kind your sister will see on every news outlet and social media platform. The kind that announces to the world that Valentina Chen isn't broken, she's dangerous. I'm not dangerous. Not yet. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. But you will be. I'll make sure of it. A shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with fear. 3 days, he said. That's all I need. 3 days to arrange everything, to secure the venue, to make sure you're protected. His hand slid down my arm to lace his fingers through mine. Can you give me 3 days? And then? Then you become Valentina Salvatore. And everyone who ever hurt you learns what it means to cross a mafia wife. The title should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like armor, something hard and impenetrable that could protect the soft, wounded parts of me that still bled when I thought about Derek's betrayal. My sister's smile. My family's abandonment. Okay, I whispered. 3 days. Good. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender and possessive. Now, let's get you settled. You'll stay here tonight, it's the safest place in the city. I need clothes, my things. Marco will retrieve them. Give him your address and keys. I can go with him. No. The word was absolute. You don't leave this penthouse without me or a full security detail. Not until the wedding. Not until you're officially protected by my name. The cage was closing, I realized. Gilded and luxurious, yes, but a cage nonetheless. And the most terrifying part? I didn't want to escape. Matteo's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and something cold settled over his features. What now? I asked. He showed me the message. It was from an unknown number. Just 3 words. She's already dead. Below it, a photo. Of me, standing in Matteo's penthouse, visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Someone was watching us. Right now. Matteo's arm wrapped around me as the lights went out, plunging us into darkness. Get down, he commanded. And the first window exploded in a shower of glass. Matteo's body slammed into mine, taking us both to the floor as another window shattered. Glass rained down like deadly snow, and I felt something hot graze my shoulder, a bullet, I realized with detached horror. Stay down, Matteo hissed, his weight pinning me to the marble floor. I'm bleeding. Superficial. Don't move. He reached beneath the coffee table and pulled out a gun that had been magnetically attached to its underside. Of course he had weapons hidden throughout his home. Of course. More shots pierced the darkness, methodical and precise. Whoever was shooting knew exactly where we'd been standing. How many? Matteo called out. Single shooter. High rise across the street. Marco's voice came from somewhere near the elevator. Thermal scope. Professional setup. Can you get a shot? Not without exposing myself. They've got the angle, Matteo swore, pressing himself closer to me, his body a human shield. I could feel his heart hammering against my back, smell the cologne mixed with adrenaline and something metallic. My blood, probably. We need to move, he said against my ear. When I count to 3, we run for the hallway. It's reinforced, no windows. Understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. 1. Another shot. Closer this time. 2. His hand tightened on mine. 3. We moved as one, staying low. Matteo's arm around my waist, dragging me with him. Another shot whizzed past my head so close I felt the displacement of air. Then we were in the hallway, concrete walls blocking us from the sniper's view. Marco was already there, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in rapid Italian. Blood ran down my arm, soaking into the expensive fabric of the dress I'd worn to my sister's wedding. Was that really only hours ago? Let me see. Matteo pulled my arm into the dim emergency lighting, his hand surprisingly gentle as he examined the wound. Grazed. You're lucky. Lucky? My laugh came out hysterical. Someone just tried to kill me. That's lucky? You're alive. His eyes met mine, dark and fierce. That's all that matters. For how long? How long until the next shooter? The next contract, the next. He kissed me, hard, desperate, tasting of fear and fury, and something that might have been relief. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. I will keep you alive, he promised, the words more vow than statement. Whatever it takes. Whoever I have to kill. You're mine now, Valentina, and I protect what's mine. Boss. Marco's voice was tight. We've got a problem. Another one? The shooter's gone. Vanished before my team could reach the building. He handed Matteo his tablet. But they left this. I looked over Matteo's shoulder at the screen. It was a message, typed in block letters. This was a warning. Cancel the engagement or the next bullet finds her heart. Below it, another photo, this one of me leaving my apartment that morning, coffee in hand, completely oblivious to the camera, tracking my movements. They'd been watching me for hours, maybe days. They knew, I whispered, before the reception, before you proposed. They already knew about us. Matteo's expression turned calculating, which means someone at that wedding was expecting me to show up. Someone orchestrated this. But who would? I stopped, pieces clicking into place. Derek. He looked surprised when he saw us on the terrace, but not shocked, like he'd been waiting for something to happen. Your ex-fiancé hired a professional sniper? Marco sounded skeptical. No. Matteo's voice was deadly quiet. But someone might have hired Derek to set this up, make the engagement happen, create the headlines, give them a perfect excuse to eliminate Valentina and blame it on mob violence. Why would anyone go through all that trouble? I asked. I'm nobody. I don't matter. You matter to me. Matteo cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. Which means you matter to everyone who wants to hurt me. And there are a lot of people in that category. So I'm bait. Is that it? You needed a wife, and I was convenient. You were perfect, he interrupted. Unknown, unconnected to my world, desperate enough to agree. But you were never meant to be expendable. His jaw tightened. This is my fault. I underestimated how quickly my enemies would move. Then let me go. The words hurt to say, but I forced them out. Call off the engagement, announce it was a mistake, and I disappear. Problem solved. No. Matteo, no. The word was absolute. You think they'll let you live just because we're not engaged? They've already seen you as my weakness. Walking away now just makes you an easier target without my protection. He was right, and I hated it. The moment I'd said yes to him on that terrace, I'd painted a target on my back that wouldn't wash off. So what do? I asked. We accelerate the timeline. He turned to Marco. How fast can you arrange a wedding? With your resources? 24 hours if we cut corners. Do it. Tomorrow night. My eyes widened. Tomorrow? That's insane. That's survival. Matteo's thumb traced the blood on my shoulder, his expression hardening. The moment you become my wife, you're untouchable. My family's protection, my resources, my reputation, it all becomes yours. No one would dare touch you without declaring war on the Salvatores. And that's better? That's safer. He stood, pulling me up with him. Come on, we need to get that arm cleaned and bandaged before it gets infected. He led me deeper into the penthouse, to a bedroom that was all dark woods and masculine simplicity. The bathroom was marble and chrome, and Matteo sat me on the counter while he retrieved a first aid kit from beneath the sink. His hands were steady as he cleaned the wound, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the slight tremor in his fingers when he thought I wasn't looking. You're scared, I said softly. Terrified. He didn't look up, then from bandaging my arm. I've faced down rival families, survived assassination attempts, built an empire from blood and violence. But this? His eyes finally met mine. Watching you bleed, knowing I put you in danger, that terrifies me more than any bullet. The raw honesty stole my breath. Why do you care? You barely know me. I know enough. He finished with the bandage, but his hands remained on my arms, warm and grounding. I know you're strong enough to show up to your sister's wedding with your head high. I know you're brave enough to say yes to a dangerous stranger. I know you kissed me back like you were drowning and I was air. That doesn't mean... It means something. His forehead touched mine. Maybe I don't know what yet. Maybe it's just possessiveness or attraction, or the fact that you look at me like I'm a man instead of a monster. But it's enough to make me want to burn down the world to keep you safe. Matteo, His phone rang. He answered it, his expression shifting from tender to lethal in a heartbeat. When? A pause. Are you certain? Another pause, longer this time. Understood. He hung up, and when he looked at me, something had changed. They identified the shooter, he said quietly. Who? Your father hired him. The world tilted. What? Your father put out the contract, paid $500,000 to have you killed before the wedding. Mateo's hands tightened on my arms. He wanted you dead, Valentina. Your own father wanted you dead. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at Mateo while my world crumbled into ash. Why? I whispered. His expression turned murderous. Because you chose me over them. And that, he said softly, they could never forgive. My father wanted me dead. The words echoed in my head, but they wouldn't connect to reality. My father, who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd walked me to school every first day, who'd cried at my high school graduation. That man had paid someone to put a bullet through my heart. Valentina. Mateo's voice sounded distant, muffled. Breathe, Bella. Breathe. I realized I wasn't breathing. My chest was tight, constricted, and the bathroom walls were closing in. Mateo's hands cupped my face, forcing me to focus on his eyes, dark, steady, anchoring. In through your nose, out through your mouth, with me. I followed his rhythm, dragging air into my burning lungs. Once, twice, until the panic receded enough that I could think again. Why? The word came out broken. I'm his daughter. You're an embarrassment. Mateo's brutal honesty cut like a blade. In his eyes, you humiliated Celeste, aligned yourself with a criminal, brought shame to his family name. He paused, something dangerous flickering in his expression. But more than that, you became mine. And your father knows exactly what that means. What does it mean? It means you have power now. Real power. The kind that could ruin his business, expose his secrets, destroy everything he's built. Mateo's thumb traced my trembling jaw. Your father didn't try to kill you out of anger, Valentina. He did it out of fear. The thought was so absurd I almost laughed. Fear? Of me? Of what you could become as my wife. He helped me down from the counter, steadying me when my legs threatened to give out. Your father deals in commercial real estate. Half his properties were bought with loans from companies I control. If you wanted, you could bury him with a single phone call. I stared at him. You own my father's business? I own pieces of everyone's business in this city. That's how power works. He guided me back to the bedroom, sitting me on the edge of his massive bed. And now, that power is yours too. If you want it. Did I want it? The power to destroy the man who'd tried to have me killed? Yes. God help me, yes. What do I do? I asked. Nothing. Not yet. Mateo crouched before me, his hands covering mine. First, we get married. We make you untouchable. Then we decide how to handle your family. Handle them. I tasted the words, found them bitter. You mean kill them. If necessary. No hesitation, no apology. Your father tried to murder you, Valentina. In my world, that requires a response. And my mother? Celeste? My voice cracked. Do they die too? Something softened in his expression. That's your choice. Your family. Your vengeance. I'll support whatever you decide. The weight of that choice settled on my shoulders like a physical thing. I'd come to that wedding wanting to prove I'd moved on, to show them I was fine without Derek. Now I held the power of life and death over all of them. I can't think about this now, I whispered. Then don't. He stood, pulling me up with him. Rest. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. I can't sleep here. In your bed. Where else would you sleep? The guest room? A hotel? Anywhere that doesn't feel like... I gestured helplessly between us. Like we're together? His smile was knowing. We're getting married tomorrow, Bella. You'll be sleeping in this bed for the next year. Might as well get used to it. Heat flooded my cheeks. You said this was a business arrangement. It is. A business arrangement that requires us to share a bedroom. My enemies will be watching, looking for cracks in the facade. We need to sell this as real. How real? My voice came out breathier than intended. His eyes darkened. As real as it needs to be. The implication hung between us heavy, charged, impossible to ignore. This marriage would require more than signing papers and wearing rings. It would require intimacy, proximity, the kind of closeness that blurred the lines between performance and reality. "I'll sleep on the couch," he said finally. "This is your room, and you're injured and traumatized and in no condition to argue." He grabbed a pillow and blanket from the bed. "The bathroom is through there. You'll find clothes in the closet. My sister leaves things here. Sometimes. Help yourself." "You have a sister?" I don't know why that surprised me. 3, and 2 brothers. A ghost of a smile. "You'll meet them all at the wedding. They're protective. Of you or of me?" "Both, probably. The Salvatores take family seriously." He paused at the doorway. "Get some rest, Valentina. Tomorrow everything changes." He left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat on the edge of his bed, massive, masculine, smelling of his cologne, and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. I'd watched my sister marry my ex-fiancé, met a dangerous stranger, agreed to marry him, been shot at by a sniper my own father hired, and tomorrow I'd become a Mafia wife. The laugh that escaped was half hysterical, but I swallowed it down and forced myself to move. Matteo was right, I needed rest. Tomorrow would require all my strength. I found a silk nightgown in the closet belonging to his sister, apparently changed in the stark bathroom, avoiding my reflection. The bandage on my arm was stark white against my skin, a reminder of how close I'd come to dying. When I finally crawled into Matteo's bed, surrounded by his scent and the weight of tomorrow's vows, sleep seemed impossible, but exhaustion claimed me anyway. I woke to sunlight streaming through bulletproof glass and the smell of coffee. Matteo stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He'd changed into fresh clothes, dark slacks, and a crisp white shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing surprisingly elegant forearms. He turned when he heard me stir, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "It's done," he said, ending his call. "The wedding is set. 6 o'clock tonight, private ceremony at the cathedral." "That fast?" I called in favors. He brought me a cup of coffee, perfectly made cream, no sugar. "How did he know?" "Your dress is being delivered at noon. Hair and makeup will arrive at 3. You thought of everything." "I always do." He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough to touch but not touching. "How's your arm?" "Hurts, but I'll survive." "Yes." His hand came up to cup my face, the gesture now achingly familiar. "You will. I'll make sure of it." "Matteo, your family will be at the wedding," he interrupted. "All of them. Your father, your mother, Celeste, Derek. I've made it." Strongly suggested they attend. My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because they need to see you protected. They need to understand what it means that you're mine." His thumb traced my lower lip. "And because you deserve to watch them squirm while you become untouchable." "That's cruel. That's justice." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my skin. "But if you don't want them there, say the word. This is your wedding too." Was it? Or was it just another performance? Another move in a game I barely understood? But the thought of my father sitting in that cathedral, forced to watch me marry the man, whose power he feared. "I want them there," I said. Matteo's smile was wicked. "Good, now get dressed. We have a wedding to prepare for." He stood, heading for the door. "Matteo?" He turned back. "What happens after?" I asked. "After we're married and I'm safe and my family can't touch me?" His expression turned unreadable. "We see if this arrangement becomes something more. And if it doesn't? Then in a year, you walk away with enough money to disappear forever." He paused. "But Valentina?" "Yes, it will." The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with that promise and the certainty that nothing, not my family, not assassins, not even my own fear could stop what was coming. Tonight, I would become Valentina Salvatore, and God help anyone who tried to stop me. The wedding dress was a weapon. That was my first thought when they unveiled it, a creation of ivory, silk, and lace that clung to my body like armor. No softness, no romance. This was a dress designed to make a statement, to announce that the wounded girl from yesterday's reception had transformed into something far more dangerous. "Perfetto," the stylist murmured, adjusting the cathedral-length veil. "You look like a queen." I looked like prey dressed as a predator. But maybe that was the point. My reflection stared back at me, makeup dramatic and flawless, hair swept into an elegant updo that exposed my neck, the bandage on my shoulder hidden beneath delicate lace. I barely recognized myself. The girl who'd cried over Derek was gone. The daughter who desperately wanted her family's approval had died the moment her father pulled that trigger. What remained was someone new, someone harder, someone who could survive being Matteo Salvatore's wife. "He's ready for you," Marco said from the doorway. "The car is waiting." My hands trembled as I gathered my bouquet blood-red roses. Naturally. Everything about this wedding was designed to send a message. Even the flowers promised violence. The drive to the cathedral passed in a blur. Marco sat in front with the driver, both armed, both scanning every car that got too close. 2 more security vehicles flanked us. And I realized this was my life now, always watched, always protected, never truly free. The cathedral loomed before us, ancient stone and stained glass that had witnessed centuries of vows. But never ones like these. "Your family is already inside," Marco said as he opened my door. "Front row, left side. Boss wanted them to have a clear view." Of course he did. I stepped out into the fading sunlight, my dress pooling around my feet like spilled milk. Photographers lined the street. Matteo had clearly tipped off the press. My sister's wedding had made the society pages. Mine would make international headlines. The cathedral doors opened, and a woman emerged, tall, elegant, with Matteo's dark eyes and sharp cheekbones. His sister, I realized. Valentina. She kissed both my cheeks, European style. "I'm Gabriella. Welcome to the family." "Is that what this is?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Her smile held understanding. "My brother doesn't do anything halfway. If he's marrying you, it means something. Even if neither of you knows what yet." Before I could respond, she took my arm and guided me inside. The cathedral was breathtaking, candles everywhere, white flowers cascading from every surface, and guests filling the pews. But my eyes went immediately to the front row on the left. My father sat rigid, his face gray. My mother wept quietly into a handkerchief. Celeste stared straight ahead, her hand clutching Derek's with white-knuckled intensity. They'd come. Despite everything, they'd come. Because they feared Matteo more than they hated me. The organ music swelled, and I forced my attention forward. To the altar. To the man waiting there. Matteo stood in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than my car, his hair perfectly styled, his expression unreadable. But when his eyes found mine, something shifted, heat and possession, and something deeper that made my breath catch. He looked at me like I mattered, like I was his. Gabriella released my arm, and I walked alone down that endless aisle, past whispered comments and shocked faces, past my family's judgment and my ex-fiancé's pale confusion, toward the man who'd offered me everything and asked for nothing but a year of my life. When I reached the altar, Matteo's hand extended, and I took it. His fingers closed around mine, warm, steady, real. "You're beautiful," he murmured, meant only for me. "You're a good liar," I whispered back. "I never lie. Not to you." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "Ready? For what? Marriage to a criminal? A year of performances and proximity? The death of my old life and the birth of something I couldn't yet name?" "No," I admitted. "But let's do it anyway." His smile was genuine, transforming his face into something almost boyish, almost vulnerable. The priest began the ceremony in Latin, the ancient words washing over us like a blessing or a curse. I barely heard them. All I could focus on was Matteo's hand in mine, the way he watched me like I was the only thing in the cathedral that mattered. "The rings," the priest prompted. Marco stepped forward with a velvet box. Matteo opened it, revealing 2 bands, mine a delicate circle of diamonds that caught the candlelight, his a simple platinum band that somehow suited him perfectly. "Repeat after me," the priest instructed Matteo. "I, Matteo Salvatore, take you, Valentina Chen. I, Matteo Salvatore, take you, Valentina Chen." His voice was low, commanding, absolute. "To be my wife, my partner, my equal. To protect you with my life, to honor you with my loyalty, to cherish you with everything I am." He paused, deviating from the traditional script. "From this moment forward, you are mine, and I am yours. Let anyone who would challenge that live just long enough to regret it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The priest looked scandalized, But Mateo's eyes never left mine as he slid the ring onto my finger. "Your turn," he said softly. "My turn. To vow myself to a man I barely knew. To pledge loyalty to a criminal empire. To choose power over safety. Revenge over peace. To become someone my family wouldn't recognize. I, Valentina Chen, take you, Matteo Salvatore." My voice steadied as I spoke, growing stronger with each word. "To be my husband, my protector, my home in a world that rejected me." I met his eyes. "I promise to be the wife you need, the partner you deserve, and the weapon you've been waiting for. From this moment forward, I'm yours. Completely." Something blazed in his expression, triumph and desire, and something almost like awe. "The bride may now kiss the groom," the priest said, clearly ready to end this unorthodox ceremony. Matteo cupped my face with both hands, his touch achingly gentle. "Last chance to run," he whispered. "I'm done running. Then come. Here, Mrs. Salvatore." The kiss was nothing like the desperate claiming from last night. This was a promise, slow, deep, devastating in its tenderness. He kissed me like I was precious, breakable, worth protecting. And I kissed him back like he was oxygen, salvation, the only solid thing in my crumbling world. When we finally broke apart, applause erupted, polite, shocked, confused. But all I could see was Matteo's smile, warm and real, and meant only for me. "Ready to face them?" he asked, nodding toward my family. "With you?" "Yes." We turned together, his arm around my waist, and walked back down the aisle, past the guests who'd come to witness a spectacle, past the photographers capturing every moment, past my father, whose expression had transformed from gray fear to something far worse, murderous rage barely contained. As we passed, he stood abruptly. "This isn't over," he hissed, loud enough for only us to hear. "You think marrying him protects you? You've signed your own death warrant." Matteo stopped, turning to face my father with lethal calm. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." My father's eyes were wild. "You've made an enemy you can't afford, Salvatore. And when the time comes, Matteo interrupted softly, dangerously, "I'll be ready." "But will you?" He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried. "Because if anything happens to my wife, if she so much as gets a paper cut, I will burn your empire to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. Your business, your fortune, your family, all of it will disappear. Am I making myself clear, Mr. Chen?" My father went white. "Crystal," he managed. "Good." Matteo smiled, all teeth. "Enjoy the reception. The champagne is excellent." We continued walking, leaving my father standing there, impotent and furious. Outside, Marco waited with the car. As we slid into the back seat, Matteo's hand found mine, lacing our fingers together. "You okay?" he asked. "I just married a man who threatened to murder my father at our wedding ceremony." I looked at him. "I should be terrified. But you're not." "No." And it was true. I felt powerful, protected, dangerous. I'm not. His smile was wicked. "Good. Because the real fun is just beginning." The car pulled away from the cathedral, carrying us toward the reception, toward our new life, toward whatever came next. Behind us, through the rear window, I watched my father stumble out of the cathedral, and I felt nothing but satisfaction. I was Valentina Salvatore now, and I was just getting started. The reception was held at Matteo's private estate, sprawling grounds, marble halls, and enough security to protect a head of state. Every detail screamed wealth and power, from the ice sculptures to the live orchestra, to the champagne that probably cost more than my old monthly rent. My family sat at a table in the back, isolated like the pariahs they were. Celeste's eyes followed me everywhere, her expression oscillating between shock and something that looked almost like envy. Derek wouldn't meet my gaze at all. Good. Let them stew in their regret. "Dance with me," Matteo said, appearing at my side as the orchestra began a waltz. "I don't know how." "Then follow my lead." He guided me to the center of the ballroom, his hand settling possessively on my waist, just like everything else we'll do together. We moved across the floor, and despite my protests, I found myself following his lead naturally. He was a good dancer, controlled, confident, making me look far more graceful than I actually was. "You're thinking too much," he murmured against my ear. "Someone tried to kill me yesterday." My father wants me dead. I just married a stranger. I met his eyes. I think I'm entitled to overthink a little. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Fair enough. But for the next 3 minutes, could you just be here? With me? Something in his voice made me soften. Okay. 3 minutes. I let myself relax into his embrace, matching his rhythm, letting the music and movement quiet my racing thoughts. His hand splayed across my lower back, warm through the silk of my dress. His cologne expensive, masculine, surrounded me like a cocoon. Better? He asked. Yes, I admitted. How did you know? Because I see you, Valentina. His eyes held mine. Not the performance, not the armor. You, the woman who's terrified but refuses to show it. The one who's been wounded but won't stay down. The one who kissed me like her life depended on it because maybe it did. My breath caught. Matteo, I know this started as a transaction, a business arrangement between two broken people who needed something from each other. His hand tightened on my waist. But somewhere between that terrace and this dance floor, it became something else, at least for me. What did it become? I don't know yet. His forehead touched mine, intimate despite the 100 eyes watching. But I want to find out, if you'll let me. The song ended. Applause erupted. But we stayed frozen in that moment, suspended between what was and what could be. Mr. Salvatore. One of his brothers I'd met all three during the reception line, but their names blurred together, approached with Marco at his side. We have a situation. Matteo's expression shuddered instantly. Can it wait? No, sir. It's urgent. He looked at me, conflict written across his face. I need to handle this. Gabriella will stay with you. I want to come with you, I said. Valentina, you said I'd learn everything after the wedding. Well, we're married now. I lifted my hand, the ring catching the chandelier light. So, either I'm your partner, or I'm just another pretty accessory. Which is it? Something like pride flickered in his expression. He turned to his brother. Give us the room. The ballroom cleared with remarkable efficiency, guests ushered to the gardens, staff disappearing, until only Waide, Matteo's inner circle, remained. Marco, his 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and me. Show her, Matteo said. Marco pulled out a tablet, and my stomach dropped. It was a video grainy surveillance footage from outside the cathedral. My father, talking to a man I didn't recognize. Money changing hands. Who is that? I asked. Konstantin Volkov. Matteo's voice was ice. Head of the Russian Bratva in Brooklyn. Your father just hired him to finish what the sniper couldn't. The words hit like physical blows. When? An hour ago, while we were saying our vows. Marco's expression was grim. He's already mobilizing his people. How much time do we have? Matteo asked. Maybe 12 hours before they move. Probably less. Matteo's jaw worked. I could see the calculations running behind his eyes, threats to assess, resources to deploy, violence to orchestrate. We go to the safe house, one of his brothers said. Lock down until we can neutralize the threat. No. Matteo's voice was absolute. We don't hide. We end this. Tonight. Brother. Tonight, he repeated. I want every soldier we have mobilized, every favor called in, every weapon loaded, and I want Konstantin Volkov delivered to me alive. Is that understood? Yes, sir. His family dispersed, leaving us alone in the vast ballroom. Matteo turned to me, and I saw the struggle playing out across his face, the need to protect me warring with the respect to include me. Say it, I prompted. I need you to stay here, where you're safe. No. Valentina, you said I was your partner. Partners don't hide while the other fights. I moved closer, tilting my chin up defiantly. I want to see him, the man my father hired to kill me. I want to look him in the eye. This isn't a game. These are dangerous men, who want me dead. My voice hardened. I think I've earned the right to face them. He studied me for a long moment, something unreadable churning in those dark eyes. You're not the woman I met on that terrace. No, I'm the woman you made me. I touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. So let me be her, all the way. If anything happens to you, it won't, because you'll be there. I pressed closer, feeling his heart hammering against my palm. Right? You'll protect me. With my life. The vow was instant, absolute, always. Then take me with you. He kissed me then hard, possessive, desperate, not the tender promise from the altar, but something rawer, more honest. A kiss that tasted like fear and fury, and the terrifying realization that this had stopped being pretend somewhere along the way. When he pulled back, his thumb traced my swollen lips. Stay close to me, he commanded. Don't leave my sight. And if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Understood. Good. He took my hand, lacing our fingers together. Let's go meet the man who thinks he can kill my wife. We headed for the door, toward whatever violence waited in the darkness beyond his estate. Mateo? I stopped him at the threshold. Yes, thank you, for letting me choose this. His smile was wicked and warm. Thank you for choosing me. The car was waiting armored, loaded with weapons, Marco in the driver's seat. As we slid into the back seat, Mateo pulled out a gun and checked the chamber with practiced ease. Ever shot one of these? He asked. No. He placed it in my hands, his fingers covering mine, showing me the weight and balance. Safety's here. Point and squeeze. Aim for center mass. I'm not going to. You might have to. His eyes held mine. If it comes down to your life or theirs, what do you choose? I looked at the gun, feeling its deadly potential. Looked at Mateo, at the man who'd given me power and protection, and something that felt dangerously close to belonging. Mine, I said. I choose mine. Good girl. The car pulled away from the estate, heading toward the docks where Konstantin Volkov was reportedly meeting his men. Heading toward a confrontation that would either make me untouchable or get me killed. Either way, I realized, there was no going back. I was Valentina Salvatore now, and tonight, I'd learn what that really meant. The city lights blurred past as we drove deeper into Brooklyn, into territory controlled by the Russians, into the heart of danger. Mateo's hand never left mine, and for the first time since this insane journey began, I wasn't afraid. I was ready.